Welcome back to Success and Strategy, Real Talk with Heart-Centered Entrepreneurs. I am your host and strategic bookkeeper, Amanda Stickle, and we will be hearing from Allison about her inspiring story and insights from her journey as a business owner, and how she leads with heart and strategy. So thank you for joining me, Allison. Do you want to share a little bit about who you are, your business, and kind of what you've got going on?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Allison Ly. I am a second generation adult, so meaning I have parents who were born in another country and I was born here in the US. So with that background, it really inspired me to like do the work that I'm doing now. And I'm a mental health therapist as well as the founder of Unshaken Gens, my coaching program. I help adults with immigrant parents really start to live more of the life that they've been wanting to live with new thoughts and new values that are, well, not new, but like checking in with their values to really check in with themselves and see if it's aligned with where they want to be headed right now, right? Because a lot of our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves, about the world is learned when we were young. And, as things change, as we change, the rethinking and recreating how we believe about ourselves and what we're thinking about ourselves in the world is really important in getting the goals that we want. And for my clients, a lot of them want to like strengthen their relationship with their family members, their loved ones, and kind of reprogramming how we're feeling, what we're thinking about, you know, um, ourselves and the world is really important in making that change because our thoughts are really powerful. And that's my main goal in really serving and working with adults with immigrant parents is really having them live the life that they want more on their own terms while keeping in line the values that they grew up with, but also values that they have now.
Yeah. And I can imagine that's probably difficult because of the cultural difference from how their parents were raised and the environments that they were raised in, and now how they're being raised and how society is saying you should be doing things and your parents are like no. And I feel like that's hard, and I feel like that's probably even more hard for second gen. But I think it's also I think it's a similar experience for I think our generation. Are you a millennial? Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay. Because I feel like we're all on like this healing journey, and our parents don't recognize that they also needed healing, and they're not like in that mindset to even be on that journey. And now we are on that journey, and now we are able to also raise our kids in a different way too, if you have kids. Um, that's so interesting. I think that's so powerful. That's amazing. I don't, is that like are there other people that offer those services, or is this kind of like a new service that's
Yeah.
out there?
So as far as like coaching, I haven't seen anyone else,
Yeah.
specialize with adults with immigrant parents. But with therapy, there's a lot of other second generation therapists too who probably do the same work of intergenerational trauma. But therapy is more processing, more long term. Whereas the coaching, I really want to help people get the skills that don't really need the processing and the therapy to like implement, and we workshop through them to just give them skills to empower them to be able to say what they want to say and do what they need to do when they want to.
Yeah.
So I think in the coaching sphere, it's not as much, but therapy there is. And I am a mom as well, so I think even just like I think generally, like you're saying, the differences in how our parents even raised kids or lived and how we want to live, that conflict can also really, or not conflict, but sometimes it's conflict and differences can
Yeah.
also be in any family. And that's why like thinking about our thoughts and our beliefs and how that's affecting us is so important.
Yeah, I am totally on board with that. I think that's amazing that you offer that.
Thank you.
Um, so kind of switching gears slightly, or maybe like pulling from that experience and what you offer, how do you define success in your business and in your life with what you are offering?
Yeah, I always view success as, we have a goal in mind, but I think the most important thing is like whether or not we tried it. So I don't view like whether, the outcome is what we want is successful or not. It's just whether or not we took steps towards the goals that we wanted and things that we wanted for ourselves, because of course things are going to be difficult, and we may change our mind halfway through, right? What if I like wanted to play volleyball and I was like, oh, halfway through I'm like, I don't really like this. I can change my mind, but that doesn't mean I wasn't successful. I successfully tried it and I can change my mind. So same thing in my personal life and in my business, where I may try things, right, like that won't work out in my business, or may be great, and that's great too, but it's not just the outcomes, it's more the process and how we're aware of like why this is important to us and whether or not we took steps to get to where we want to go.
I love that response because I feel like we, specifically as business owners, I feel like we get stuck in that goal mindset, and that's not a bad thing, but like we're always striving for the next thing, going after the next thing, and not really processing the journey. And I think that's kind of what you're saying, like really just there's no wrong answer as long as you take the steps and really just live life. Like it doesn't have to be a wrong step. It's just a learning experience, and that's okay. And that's beneficial ultimately because then you're learning what works for you or what doesn't work for you or what you like and what you don't like. And it's just all part of the life experience of, you know, I don't know. It's just I get it, but I think that's an awesome answer.
Yeah, it all gives us some sort of information, right? Like one of the
Yes.
things I talk about is like boundaries,
Yeah,
and we don't sometimes don't know what our boundaries are until they're crossed. Like we can't predict every situation that's gonna like not sit with us in the right way. So that's
exactly.
like an example too, and like kind of
Yeah,
more the practical sense of what I talk about.
that's awesome. I am loving everything about our conversation so far. We just started and the energy. This is great. Okay, so what do you feel has made the most significant impact in getting your business to where it is today?
Yeah, so with my two businesses, I really had to learn from other people. Like, I think having this learner mindset was really helpful, because yeah, it would have taken me a lot longer to get to where I am if I had tried to do everything on my own. And I think for my clients and me being a second gen specifically, there's this idea of like I need to bootstrap everything and do everything myself. And a lot of people have that too, but it actually helps shorten the process and just gets me to where I want to be a lot quicker when I do get into coaching programs, when I do learn from other people or outsource or reach out for support, right? Without just doing everything on my own. So if anyone else is growing a business, right? Having that learner's mentality and just getting help, I think is great to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I've been in business for 10 years now, and I feel like I kind of struggled through the first 6 years of just kind of doing things on my own, and like I didn't want to invite people in to help. Um, and it's scary because you don't want to admit that you need help, I guess, or that you might be doing something wrong. But once I took that step and I actually started with she was more like a life coach, but she did business coaching as well. And once I invested in that coaching program, though, that's when things really started to shift for my business. But it started with working on my mindset and working through the personal things to be able to take my business to that next step and really develop relationships and my boundaries and knowing what those were. And I think that's it's so impactful to ask for help and then also building a community. Like it doesn't always have to be hiring somebody. It's just, finding the people that are in similar places as you, um, and can kind of give you their different perspectives and what they've tried. Um, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it, even if it didn't work for them, because like you said, everybody works a little bit differently. But yeah, that's so big, and that's a common occurrence that has been brought up in the past interviews as well. So I think that's going to like really drive home that you need your little community, whatever that looks like. You need people surrounding you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said of like, yeah, it doesn't have to be any type of specific way, right? Like even a coach, just having one person who's had some sort of experience where you want to go can be super helpful. Or yeah, having a community and just like really seeing what works and having that support.
Hmm. knowing you're not alone. You're not
Yeah,
crazy.
definite. Yeah, especially for entrepreneurs, that
Yeah,
definitely is a lonelier journey, even though everyone's in it's kind of doing the same thing. It's like, just somehow a little lonelier than if you were to like work at a company and everyone's around you.
right.
Uh,
It's a different realm, but
Mhm.
you can find your people. You find your people, and then it makes it easier.
Yeah, and the internet helps, right? Like we're connecting
Yes.
right now. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
and you have this YouTube channel and just yeah, there's just so much opportunities to connect.
exactly. Yeah. That's definitely something I strive for too, is connection. Okay, so how now we talked about community and support and asking for help. But on the other side, how has understanding your finances been for helping your business grow?
So I think actually starting with my mindset about money was the most important thing for me. So similar to what you were talking about, and this is why I think mindset and reprogramming, rethinking our thoughts is so important because what I viewed money as before was so connected to like my self-worth or like my identity, and it's a resource, right? It's external from me. It's a tool. It's a powerful tool, and I think my financial journey actually started with like really detaching from money, but also again having a goal in mind of what I want and really looking at my numbers, being mindful of that, but not being so yeah, attached to it, to my personal worth. So once I worked on that and I joined a program for that, I this coaching program, it really helped me just look at my numbers more objectively and also be more willing to look at my numbers and not like, cringe or have certain types of feelings come up whenever I do look at it.
Yeah, money mindset is definitely one of those key aspects I think everybody needs to work on. I also have gone through money mindset programs, and I usually revisit the same program every year because each year that I go through it, I'm basically a different person. I have different mindsets, and it's like um it's like layering on the work. You just keep adding the layers of improvement, and you have different perspectives, and it's not like a one and done, like you do one program and then you're done. You don't have to think about your money mindset ever again. It's something that's a continual process of improving because we are drilled so much from parents and other external sources that we pick up throughout our youth. Um, and now with social media being such a big presence in everybody's life, we see things differently too, and that can be really hard to see. Like the big thing is posting screenshots of your bank account, like those some of those coaches, and it's like that can make you feel uncomfortable. But once you work on those mindset, um, you can realize that it doesn't have to be uncomfortable, and that's you can celebrate them for what they've done and not make it be about you, like you're saying. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and just like with social media, right? Especially screenshots, it's just a glimpse of something, right? There's no context unless they're giving us a context. Then we're filling in the gaps of like what's happening, how they got there, why am I not there? But we don't know the full story or like what's gotten them to where they are, in any situation. So, yeah, it's like we got to be very mindful of that too when looking at other information.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've seen posts before too where people have said that, "Oh, hey, that's my screenshot that you're using." So you don't know if it's true. Like you it's just information. It's just a
Mhm.
number, right? And you don't know what that number really means or if it's accurate.
Mhm.
Same with people sharing like, "Oh, I made um $100,000." That might just be like over what time period did they make that? How long did it take them to get there? Are there expenses involved? Like, are they really getting that 100 grand, or are they only getting like $5,000 of that because they're
Right.
paying out to other contractors and people that have helped them get to that income goal? Um, so it's important to just be mindful of that, like you're saying, and not just take it with a grain of salt unless you actually physically know all the information and see all of the backup proof. Um, but yeah, and then the other thing you said was having your financial goals, and I think. and thus I'm again filling in the gaps, like you said, having your financial goals and having it reflect your personal lifestyle. Um, like it doesn't, you don't, not everybody needs $100,000 every month or every year, because there's people that say $100,000 every month, which
Mm.
is great for them, and they may have more extreme living expenses than people who only need $50,000 a year to live. So I think it's all about perspective and like you said, knowing your financial goals of what you need to live and what's going to make you happy, um, to support your family, and that looks different for everybody. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a very good point, right? Yeah, where you live and what your needs are is just so different for everyone. So it's hard to compare when, yeah, if someone's living in, I don't know, New York or, somewhere else that's not as expensive or costly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now after we talked about all of those things, if you could give one piece of advice, whether that's financial advice or business strategy, or maybe it's a mindset piece of advice, what piece of advice would you give to other heart-centered entrepreneurs looking to grow their business?
I think kind of similar to what we've been talking about, it's really knowing our goals, right? Knowing ourselves and knowing why we're doing what we're doing. Because it can be like we've just touched on, so easy to be caught up on a specific number when it's like thrown out there. But being mindful of what works for us. And I think that's a really important value in everything that I work on because everyone is so unique. So even a tool that I teach could work for someone and it could not work for another person, or we need to modify it. So, like, really catering everything and our goals and our business to us is really important and not just like blindly following someone because, yeah, they suggested it or, it's worked for them. But checking in with like, this is actually work with my schedule, my boundaries, and my season of life right now. So, having that like qualitative and quantitative like goals in mind, I think is like a good balance to have.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think um, through my experience, like I've struggled with that with people joining programs and they teach a certain way or a certain method or process or whatever. And before, like I would just try to follow everything step by step, even if it didn't feel like it was right for me. And it wouldn't work like it would work to a point, but it didn't feel good and it wasn't going to work long term for me. And I think a lot of people experience that because they don't take into account how what their boundaries are and what they are working on, what they actually want and need. Um, but when you do, so if you are following a program and it feels kind of eh, maybe try it, but then if it doesn't work or continue to feel good, you can always do it your own way. Like it doesn't have to be exactly how that person says. I think so just making things your way so it is in alignment with your boundaries and your values and makes sense for you. That way it can work long term for you instead of those little chunks of kind of uncomfortable feeling. And I think
Mm.
there's a difference too between uncomfortable and like like pushing your comfort zone and just completely not in alignment with you. So I think it's just like a trial and error, like kind of what we've been talking about this whole thing is just, take that step and see what works and what doesn't work, learn from it, and then alternate the process and find the next step to try to take. So it's just
Yeah.
being flexible and fluid, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's 100%. And I love that distinction between that uncomfortability of learning something new versus like it just doesn't really align with us, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a difference and it's up to us to kind of determine that difference.
Yeah. It can be hard, but you're not alone. So feel free to reach out to anybody, either of us you can reach out to,
Yeah.
or just anybody in your community. Just talk things through. I think that's big too, and you probably are big on the talk. Just just talk, express yourself, get it out of your mind. That way you can kind of have a little bit more clarity and have somebody where you can bounce ideas off of. Um, and just have accountability and support. I think that's the biggest thing through all of this.
Yeah. I actually wish I had shared more along the process, right? I think like being an entrepreneur, if the people weren't in that space, I often like either shielded information or didn't share as much just because I thought they wouldn't understand. But like one of the things I teach is like we all are also responsible for other people understanding us too. They have their part, we have our part. So yeah, I think I wish I'd shared a little bit more at the beginning of it because it would have made things not feel as hard. So yeah, for
I
anyone out
agree.
there, please share more.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. If people want to connect or reach out to you, where should they do that?
Yeah, they can find me at my website. It's Hey Allison Lee, and Lee is spelled Ly, .com. That's my website. Or on Instagram, it's the same handle, Hey Allison Lee.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close up?
No, yeah, thank you for having me, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome. Me too. Well, thank you guys for joining. This has been Success and Strategy, Real Talk with Heart Centered Entrepreneurs. And until next time, thank you guys for joining.